Yeah.
Yeah. Connecting.
Okay, I see everyone's starting to flow in here. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Give us a minute while everyone logs in. Okay, welcome everybody. We'll get started here in a second. Okay, slowly but surely, welcome everybody.
And 245 people in here already, 247.
We're good to go.
Okay, guys, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our 2021 BIA Orange County Outlook webinar. My name is Steve Lamont, the Executive Officer for the Building Industry Association of Orange County. As always, I am honored to kick things off this afternoon and look forward to an insightful and thought-provoking presentation from our speakers, Landsea Homes President and Chief Operating Officer, Mike Forsum, and John Burns, CEO of John Burns Real Estate Consulting. And so now what is going to be a first for me, even as we near 1 year of dealing with the coronavirus, I would like to virtually lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. So in honor of our great nation, we're going to put up a flag, and I would like it if everyone watching can stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I did see some people in sweatpants, but that is totally okay these days. Next, I would like to thank our sponsors who make events like this possible. Our presenting sponsor, Builder Media, whom you'll be hearing from in just a moment, and our supporting sponsors, Proactive Engineering, Reliable Wholesale Lumber, Shop Off Realty Investments, thank you so much, and our program sponsors whose names and logos are currently scrolling by on your screen. And lastly, I would like to thank those who have participated in our magazine, Southern California Builder. We've been receiving extremely positive feedback on the content and the click-through rates for those who have advertised. And so I would like to let you know that our April edition will be focused solely on Orange County, and our next edition will be out February 18th of this month, obviously. So contact us now if you would like to participate. And so next, this is when I would normally introduce our elected officials that are in attendance. But what I'm going to do instead is introduce our chapter board president, Santi Kumjim, with MBK Rental Living. And as some of you may know, Santi is now serving his second term as chair of the board. His first term started out normal, but COVID changed that pretty quickly. Yet he has continued to focus on his platform, which is of advocacy and project support, which there has been no lack of during the last year. He and Vice Chair Eric Nelson were awarded the Government Affairs Award last year for their time and effort speaking at city council meetings and planning commission meetings, and getting members to show up at city councils to fight for housing. And so with that, I am going to kick it off to Sandeep to share a little bit about this, about his platform, and introduce someone who has also spent some time fighting for housing and who wants to say thank you to those members who have already shown up in the 2021 year. And so with that, Santi, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Steve. And thanks again to our sponsors. I'm having some technical difficulty with my camera, but the microphone appears to be working. So we're just going to roll with it. So the mission of the BIA is to champion housing as a foundation of vibrant and sustainable communities. But the fact is, it's becoming increasingly difficult to provide housing in our state as regulatory hurdles grow, impact fees escalate, and NIMBY groups get increasingly vocal the supply of new housing has decreased. And while the BIA has and will continue to fight policy issues on your behalf, it's also time that we, the building industry, make sure our voices are heard. Advocacy matters, and advocacy is most effective
2 minutes.
when we band together and help each other. A win for the industry is a win for all of us. If you're a BIA member and you need help, reach out. We are here to help. And while we won't win every time, we will win more when we work together. And with that concept in mind, it's my pleasure to introduce James O'Malley with Shophoff Realty Investments to share his thoughts on advocacy. James?
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm James O'Malley. I'm with Shophoff Realty Investments located right here in Irvine. And I want to thank all the members, particularly Cynthia, for his leadership when it comes to the BIA in this topic of advocacy. We're becoming more powerful, we're becoming effective, and we're becoming known in the world of advocacy and fighting back. Too often, the vocal minority in our business, as we all are aware of, become the winners in certain cases and garner too much recognition from taking what we provide, a very logical component to society, housing primarily, and all the benefits that come with it, and then it gets mixed up without the will for the decision makers to make the proper decision. Well, recently this worked. I hope that most of you know that we had a success recently in the city of Huntington Beach, and a big part of that success, and everyone's talking about it, including decision makers that voted for us, as well as a few that didn't. We're very impressed with the turnout of the BIA representation, all under the wing and this new topic, this new theme, this new thrust of advocacy. It was clearly recognized, and again, I want to thank you, Steve, Cynthia, everybody involved, especially the people that spoke out, took time out of their calendars, and actually were incredibly articulate, wholesome, and sincere in their comments, not to mention factual. So if I could take a few minutes and name off these folks and the people that they represent, or the companies they represent, I will do so. From Rural Development, Wendy Bucknam, always there. Thank you very much, Wendy. LSA, Les Card, you were phenomenal. Thank you so much for your presentation. Gretchen Food from Kovac Marketing, excellent job. Thank you so much. Tom Grable, you're spot on as always from TriPoint. Well done. Thank you so much. Steve Grayshock from Graycom, thank you. Ted Grove from Stantec, very well received. Sunti, you were excellent as always. Steve, you're a local in town, very well recognized, so you were basically double dipping that night. Very much appreciated. Eric Nelson from TrueMark, thank you. Your leadership in this particular area, you're professional at it, very well received. Thank you very much. Joshua Ruiz from Busco, thank you. Peter Vanek from Integral Communities, spot on as well. Thank you so much. Bill Watt, your wisdom from Baywood, couldn't have been better, very well received. Rick Wood from Wood Consulting, thank you, Rick. Deborah Shales, our civil engineer on the project, and a local, it's all fair. Great presentation. Adam Wood from Southern California Group, thank you again. Lance Haunt from P11, thank you, been working on the project as well. Oscar Urango from IMG, thank you. Mike Ruane from National Core, well received. Jeff Stevens from Vanillion, thank you. Nicole Burdett from Brookfield, another local, thank you, Nicole. Michelle Whedon, thank you. And last, and if I apologize if I forgot anybody that's part of that evening, Nasser Mustafa from ASG, great presentation, down to earth, so much out of all of you is appreciated. And let's just keep this going, and it'll get more powerful, and it'll have recognition and power. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, James. And thank you to our advocates. Again, we will have plenty more of this throughout the year of needs for our members to come out and speak and fight at City Council. And you will be recognized. So again, thank you to our advocates. Thank you, James. Thank you, Santi. Thank you, Eric, our board members, of course, for standing up and fighting for housing. And so next, I would like to introduce our presenting sponsor, Nick Slevin, with Builder Media to say a few words. Nick, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Perfect. On to you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow BI members. It's nice to see you all again, albeit remotely. I presume everyone is fully attired and was not too embarrassed standing for the pledge, as Steve has mentioned. Our team is pleased to be your presenting sponsor once again for this signature BIA Orange County event. And as a 30-year member firm, we are pleased to support the chapter and the membership. Builder Media is a 31-year-old home building specific national business-to-business trade media organization with 226,000 subscribers now, including 27,300 Californians who actively engage with our print and digital publications, websites, newsletters, and social media pages. We publish Builder and Developer and Green Home Builder, among others. Our role is to drive web traffic and engagements with your projects and your brands. We showcase great single family and multifamily projects. We share housing data, design trends, land deals, market activity, and the latest news from around the home building industry. Our team of journalists are supported by a committed group of contributors, some among us today, whose columns and articles are published on our platforms. We also develop, design, and build the ABC Green Home project with a design team led by Denali & Associates and other consultants, all BIA members, some of whom are here today with us. We use our advertisers' building materials to construct each net zero LEED Platinum home. We have been supported in these builds by SoCal Edison and SoCal Gas, thank you very much, and over 150 manufacturers from among our advertisers. The recently completed ABC 4.0 was the first home to pass the new 2019 Title 24 building code, beating the code by 37% with an energy design rating of -2.7, which technically makes the home net positive, meaning it produces more energy than it consumes in a year. The next ABC Green Home is getting ready to go to the design team. The Lakeview custom home will be built in Lake Elsinore, California, where a number of our big home builders are already building communities. Our Builder and Developer and Green Home Builder annual buyer's guides are publishing in April. These print and digital desktop reference editions are designed for a year's worth of continuous reference and include the Home Builder 1000 database of the largest and most active home builders in the country, as well as links to the top building materials and brands that you're familiar with. We published our housing economic forecast issue of Builder and Developer in January. 6 notable housing economists contributed their perspectives within this the online issue.
Nick, we might have lost.
Okay, so you're. Am I here?
Yep. Okay.
Builder.media is the email address. That's it for me, except to say wish you very much and the best of success for 2021. Thank you for the privilege of your readership.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for that. And to everybody, look out for an email on Monday from Laura with hopefully our poll results, if we can get those up and running tonight. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Obviously, we've had some technical difficulties, as well as a link to the digital copy of the magazine that Nick has just mentioned. And so with that, I have the honor of introducing our first speaker, Mike Forsum. Mike serves as Landsea Homes President and Chief Operating Officer. Before joining Landsea Homes in 2016, Mike spent 7 years in private equity as a partner specializing in real estate investing, and co-founder of Starwood Land Ventures in 2008, an affiliate company of Starwood Capital Group Global. He has spent more than 30 years in the home building industry as a senior level executive, leading home building operations at KB Homes, serving as division president of Ryland Homes, and as West Region President and a member of the North American leadership team at Taylor Woodrow Morrison. Mike is on the National Board of Directors for Homemade America and received his bachelor's degree from Arizona State University. Mike, welcome. Thank you for participating today, and I'm going to kick it over to you.
Sure, Steve. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. While you were talking, and I was listening to my bio being presented, I realized though at this moment in my 33 years of being in this business, I've reached the pinnacle achievement at this moment, because I can now put in there that I'm the opening act for John Burns at the BIA event. This is akin to probably opening up for the Stones, probably if I was an old rocker or something like that. So I'm really grateful to be here today, and I thank you for giving us the opportunity, Lansing Homes, to have a chance to showcase a little bit about who we are and what we've got going on. And certainly, I think my job here today is to talk about some of my insights in the industry, for whatever they're worth. There's a lot of really smart people that are listening in, and I think for the extent that I could add something to their existing knowledge, I'll try to do my best. But I always like learning from others first. So with that being said, I know we're running a little bit behind here, so I'll try to kind of keep things moving along. Again, as Steve, you shared, my name is Mike Forsum. I'm the president COO of Lansing Homes. We have currently operations in New York, New Jersey, along with Northern California, Southern California, and Arizona, and soon to be in Texas and Florida with substantial home building operations. As I said earlier, my role here, I think right now, is to give some of insights and thoughts that I have going into 2021. But before I did that, I just thought it would be worthy of a little bit of a reflection of what went on in 2020 and a reminder of what we all went through and what we faced. What a year it was. Just a couple days ago, we met before our board to talk about our 2020 results. And we pulled out some of the highlights of it. Mostly we were in front of our comp committee, so we wanted to make sure that they really understood exactly what we went through to get to where we are today, because it was an exciting home building year, but with challenges that have been unprecedented in my career to overcome. Never seen anything like it before. But even going back into March, you think that that's when we started to have our outbreak with COVID. Then quickly thereafter, the U.S. market, stock market crashed, and we started to commence with our shutdowns and shelter-in-place orders in effect. The U.S. government at that time put out their stimulus $2 trillion package that John has talked a lot about, and it's certainly percolating its way through the economy now in different ways, but it's being added on to constantly. In May, employment went from 4.4 to 14.47 in 1 month. We went that fast, and then we started to deal with the social unrest that was ignited by George Floyd's horrific death that took place in Minneapolis. That turned our world upside down in so many different ways. And then in June, the economy was identified as contracting by almost 33%. If we weren't in a tailspin and fire, at that point, I don't know what else we had to do. But then came along the wildfires that ravaged California again, burning more than 4% of the state's 100 million acres. So for us that didn't notice it, the air quality was a little bit rough during that time, but we continued to persevere. And then the economy bounced back nicely. In fact, more than that in October, we bounced back up 33.1% in 3Q, recovering about 2/3 of the lost pandemic jobs. But then we got to wrestle our way through the election, which was unique in and of itself, which got a lot of distraction along the way. And then in December, right when we thought we were, heading around the bend, the third wave of COVID hit us, and we were back in our houses again and struggling to make sense of it all. So, with that being said, with that parade of horribles that I just listed out in front of you, as an industry, I just can't help but highlight what an amazing job we did. I am so proud to be a part of a group of people that found a way through courage to continue to keep people working that have to live paycheck to paycheck, that we were able to continue to close homes, sell homes for those that were seeking safety and space during a very uncertain time. And all the while, we did this in such a way that I know that all of us always were thoughtful about keeping our team members and our trade partners and our homeowners safe during this pandemic. As an industry, we have so much to be proud of. I just can't begin to thank all of those that every day fought the good fight, showed up at the communities, routed in the field, opened up sales offices, did what needed to be done to make sure that we did what we did to live up to our promises to those people that we were selling homes to, but more importantly, just how we're bound together as an industry. So it's remarkable, and I think we all should be incredibly proud of what we did, and to go forward with that into 2021 and really leading the charge. So I believe that turning to 2021, and again, what my job here is to really talk about my thoughts and I guess insights to what I think is going to be going on down the road. And I think I would just start off by again stating that people will continue to be seeking safety in space. They're looking for more square footage. They're moving out into areas that give them a little bit more distance from their neighbors. It's a trend that's going, and I don't necessarily think, and John probably can talk a little bit about this or has talked about it or may talk about it, but it's also part of a bigger push of sort of the demographics of sort of this millennial cohort that's beginning to form households and some other dynamics that are taking place. That was also a part of it. So there's a lot of conversation around, was this sort of pulling demand forward? I don't think it is. I think it's a trend that is now percolating its way through our business. And it's happening at a very unique time for us as an industry where we have a lack of supply against very strong secular wind dynamics that are in our favor. And so we're seeing a lot of that pushing through. So it's just not, to me, one element that's making this happen. There's also the work from home phenomenon that's taking place. And for us, that will not change, at least in our opinion. We are, as an industry, and certainly us as a company, looking to provide home housing solutions in which a family can now work, teach, exercise, play, entertain under one roof. For us to be able to crack that code in which we can do that in a unique fashion, we're really devoted and committed to that. But I know that the industry is too. We have our Live Flex program, Live Flex Plus programs in place, but I know that many of our astute competitors are doing the same thing. The bottom line is that when the stay-at-home orders were issued, there was a pretty important word that came out of that, and that was home. And that's what we do. And so from that standpoint, we're in this really unique position as an industry to provide the things that are being sought out there today by the consumer looking to find a better way, to live in their houses in a more efficient and thoughtful manner. The other part I would say is that going forward is the online virtual sales tools that have come into play. I don't think anybody today can't have a robust system in which that they have highly interactive, very thoughtful tools in which the buyer can approach you first and foremost through that process. Focus 360 does an amazing job in helping us to create what we think are cutting edge tools. Today, roughly about 10% of our buyers, particularly out in Arizona, are actually interacting with us through our website and going through the entire sales process all the way through closing virtually. 97% of all of our buyers today are reaching out to us first through the website. And by that, I mean, they actually may come to one of our communities, but sit on the curb and then by their phone, go onto our website and then check us out and then come in. I guess it's like online dating now. I mean, maybe that's how that works. You got to sort of vet them out first virtually and then kind of see if you're worthy or not to go inside. So for us, we have been spending a lot of time looking at this part of our business. Michelle Burge, who leads the charge for us here in our company, is outstanding and I think is doing just, as I said, leading edge kind of stuff for us as we go forward. And it's going to be incredibly important. Think Carvana, that's how we want to be thinking about that. And some of these other industries that are now reverting into these sort of virtual tools and how acceptable that is now today for the consumer to go out and purchase high priced items through that way. The other thing that I think is for us is going to be more important than ever is really, having our highly effective in-house sales teams. Again, going by the fact that we are being approached initially through our I'm going to call it our website and making contact. The in-house sales teams are becoming incredibly vital to directing that traffic specifically to the areas in which the homeowner wants to go to, or the prospect wants to go to. They are setting up the charge and setting up the consumer, the home buyer prospect in such a way that I'm actually seeing there's sort of a flip-flop where the in-house sales teams are becoming more leading. And then on the sales floor, the sales teams are becoming more supportive, which has been the opposite for most of our time in which we've had in-house sales teams. So we're seeing a little bit of a dynamic that's changing in that way. So going forward, we're really geared towards better training in that regard, better tools for them, understanding how they can interact and be better compensated in terms of their relationship with the on-floor sales teams, and just generally, how they work. Also, it makes us much more efficient because the reach and coverage is so much more immense today by virtue, again, of the virtual experiences that we can deliver, and then the knowledge base that they can gather, and then directing the prospects to the right state, the right town, and the right community. And then also, I think that the big thing here going forward, at least for us, but I think it's really important for us as an industry is delivering a value proposition that has a golden thread that stitches together energy efficiency, sustainability, home automation, and healthy living. All of those component parts have to come together in a value proposition that is clear and demonstrable to the future home buying prospects. They are demanding that of us. It's something that we, again, have worked very hard on with our HBH program, in which we call high performance homes. And for us, we're trying to really deliver a holistic, full experience that makes lives better for our homeowners through those 4 pillars of which we're presenting. So going forward, that's going to be, again, a big emphasis for us. But I think, again, as an industry, the home buying public is looking for those things, and they're looking for it to be delivered to them in such a way, again, that makes it meaningful, and it isn't just nibbling around the edges. It's going to have to be a real driver to the business. Flipping over, I guess, is, talking about things that may concern me in 2021, and I just think for sure it's rates. I mean, I think we're floating along in this really beautiful moment. John and I think we're close to the same age, but when I bought my first house, I was so excited to get an adjustable under double digits. And now we've been living with this generation that if something goes up to 4%, they're freaking out about it. And so from that standpoint, we're going to continue to monitor that. I do feel, and again, John is much more well-equipped to speak to this than myself, but with this current administration, most of those that are in a position to affect housing were in the Obama administration that had to claw out of the last financial crisis, which was led by housing. I don't think that this is an administration that's going to let housing be a problem for them again. It just won't do it. So they'll fight around it as much as they possibly can and continue to support our industry and to keep it in such a way that we're going to continue to get good rates that will continue to propel our business. Of course, costs, direct development costs, land costs are always forefront on our minds, and we're already starting to see a decisive creep into that. It's natural, we get it, but that's going to see a little bit more as we're starting to see a response back to the demand. The other thing for us generally, and I think as an industry as a whole, is that we've had this huge momentum, sales momentum that took place in 2020. That probably pulled forward some houses and lots that were expected to be 2021 sales. So we have this gapping going on right now where everybody's trying to quickly backfill with new community openings. That's going to put a lot of pressure on our development side of our business, and of course increase costs as everybody's trying to, again, fill the holes so that they can make their numbers in 2021. The other thing that's been kind of interesting through 2020, and it was, I think, somewhat led by this COVID pandemic and us going virtual, but also just the dynamics of the home business is been a large increase in co-broks. What we're finding more and more is that the real estate community is turning towards the new home industry to provide inventory that they just are not getting out there today because there's such a dearth of resale product that's available. One of the things we've talked about our analysts is that probably our biggest cost increase in 2020 was not lumber, it wasn't material costs, it was actually the increase of our sales costs that was associated with more and more brokerage co-brokerage that's coming out there. So we're going to have to learn how to address that and understand that better, and to see ways in which we can embrace that in such a way that it makes it economic for everybody, going down the road. Because we do know that resale real estate community is important, but they're taking a big bite, out of what was normally something that we would be working on by trying to drive traffic to our sites naturally. So going into 2021, just where we are, we're bullish. We do see a little bit of a tapering coming into the beginning of the year, but a lot of that is moderating in terms of releases that are coming out, not only of ourselves, but our competition. We are finding, as I said earlier, that we're running out of inventory within our own business. And so we have to be very careful in terms of the frequency of our sales releases against price increases, against the cost increases that are coming through. But we'll see where this goes. But our sense is that, again, as I said earlier, that we still have very strong secular tailwinds that are driving this business in a very positive way. We're going to have to battle the things that normally you have to battle, but I'd always rather deal with problems in a good market than problems in a bad market. And so for right now, what we seem to be wrestling with is things that I would say are good things to be having problems with. And I would say that, we're still probably in the golden age of housing. I mean, this is a remarkable time, despite all that's been going on around us, to be a part of this business. And we're very excited. So I think with that being said, my job here is to turn it over to John, which is, I know everybody was really here to see, but I would like to also kind of share a little bit that I truly think that John is a real treasure in our industry. Very fortunate to have a voice like his speaking on our behalf in many ways. He is clear-minded. He thinks in such a way that many people understand. If you ever get a chance to attend one of John's conferences that he puts on, you have to do it. He does such a great job, and he's super efficient. You get great information, and you always walk out of there with more insights and better prepared to go forward with your business. So from that standpoint, I'm going to turn it over to my friend, John Burns, and he can take it from here.
Mike, I don't know. Are you hearing John?
I'm not.
John, we can't hear.
John, we're not hearing you. Sorry, I just want to make sure it wasn't me. Your mic might be off.
His screen is up, but I'm not hearing him.
Yeah, I think he's working on his mic.
Oh, I got low battery. Can you
There we go.
all, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right, I need to do a battery replacement. That's what happens when you're an hour late. All right, give me all the things. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. I can.
What else is going to go wrong?
I know.
Okay, and you can see the screen, so we're good to go. So
Thank you.
yeah, Mike just told a lot of lies. I take all the credit because my name's on the door, but Michaela Sharp and Ken Perlman and the rest of our team do all the great work. But one of the things he did tell that's totally true is the housing market is just on fire. I mean, we just got our January survey data today. 89% of home builders raised prices in January. Who raises prices in January? And there was one that dropped prices, so I got to go figure out what that one is. But the 2021 really has never been off to a better start. So here's the outline. We are going to send an email that's got a link to Builder and Developer magazine that's got the slides in it. We were going to do a poll. Sorry, that got messed up because I learned more from the poll than I do from me, but you'll get all these. So we'll go first on how did we all do, because you did the poll and you voted on what the year was going to be like last year. Then we'll get into what I'll call Orange County versus the US, because that's a big issue on how much of the builders here, the big builders, how much money they're going to get allocated to buy land in Orange County versus elsewhere, and in Southern California versus elsewhere. And you actually are going to see something that stunned me. There's not going to be much to buy this year. Then we're going to get into something I actually presented 4 years ago with Chris Porter, and I wrote a demographics book, and we came up with something called the 4-5-6 rule, which I'll go over, but I use this all year long to figure out what's going on, and it's a great tool and it's free. But there's 4 external influencers, and they've never mattered more. So we had government as one. This was the biggest government stimulus ever. The economy is number 2. This is the most uneven economic recession ever. Number 3 is technology. And we saw, as Mike alluded to, the fastest technology adoption ever because we had no other choice. And then the 4th was the biggest societal shifts, I won't say ever, because coming back from World War II was probably bigger, but the biggest societal shifts in 75 years, all happening within a few months. So because of that, I asked our consumer trends manager, Michaela Sharp, to cover some of the consumer and design trends, because I know the audience here, which is very heavy on service providers that are very focused on consumer and design. So we'll be a little bit on that. So you've got those trends. And I'll tell you one thing that has shifted over my career is the trends always started in Orange County and got exported. Now we're seeing trends going on in other areas that we need to pay attention to. So Michaela will bring some of that. And then Ken Perlman, who oversees Orange County, he does all the segmentation for the Rancho Mission Viejo folks. He'll show you some of what's going on with Orange County new home trends. And then we'll wrap up with a best guess forecast, which it definitely was last year. So how did we all do? So this is the last time I'll compare to Chapman, I think, but we essentially came up with the same, because the Chapman guys have been doing this for years, for those of you that are new to this. We came up with pretty much the same forecast last year, that job growth would be 1.3%. We didn't think it'd be quite that much. We actually were both massively wrong, but since I was closer to and less wrong, so we're going to take the credit for that one. Mortgage rates, the bond market was saying expect them to go to 3.8. So we said expect them to go to 3.8. They went to 3.1. They're sitting at 2.7 right now. Nobody wins that one. Resale home price appreciation, 3%. We were both saying we were a little higher. It ended up being a lot higher. And single family home permits, pretty much the same. Permits were actually down 7%. And COVID shouldn't have impacted permits too much given the demand we had. But what's the hardest thing to call in Orange County is it's not the economic stuff, it's how much lots are we going to be able to deliver. And we've got some color on that later. So how did you guys do? So we asked how you think Southern California new home prices will be. More than 600 of you in person said the consensus 59% would be 1 to 6% appreciation. LA grew 10, Orange County 7.5, Inland Empire grew 12. Clear trend here, exactly as Mike is saying with this work from home technology. It's the outlying areas that are booming, and you saw it in price appreciation this year. And then you said, we asked you how much will sales volumes be up for new homes. The consensus was 60% up, but the winners were the ones that said it would slightly decline. It declined in LA, it declined in Orange County, and all the builders in LA and Orange County will tell you it really wasn't from demand, because if I had something to sell in October, November, December, I would have. It was from lack of supply. And the Inland Empire is starting to pick up some of the slack here. So we'd said this last year too. This is the last slide from last year, but we called the new home market Goldilocks, because we weren't overbuilding and we weren't underbuilding, and we weren't appreciating too much and we weren't appreciating too little. And actually, Goldilocks was a really good thing going into this, because we weren't overbuilding and we had no problems. And particularly the big builder balance sheets were in great shape. And then this happened. We all got forced to stay at home. So let me put Orange County into perspective here. And this would be how the Lennars and Pulte's and Hortons corporate look at Orange County. It's one of the smallest markets in the country, 3,000 single family permits. We can get out to more of those cities like you guys were in Huntington Beach, that would help. But when you add up the LA region, Riverside with 12,000 and Los Angeles with 6,000. Now, a lot of that's pretty far away in the north part of the county. That's 21,000 units, and it's a top 5 market. So this still is a really important market here, but you are seeing less Orange County divisions, if you will, because there's not enough to support a division for everybody just in this market. And then in terms of the volume recovery, so this is in comparison to the prior peak period, which was generally 2005, 2006. Look at Riverside, 73% fewer houses today than the prior peak. Orange County, 57% fewer. LA, 54% fewer. The country's 35% less, so the country's still down, but this is an area that is a total dearth of supply. And I'm sure you've seen some of the headlines with people moving to Austin. One of the things Austin has is actually land supply. It's the only market in the country now where they're actually building more housing than they were in 2005, 2006. We talk about the resale market here. Inventory is tight everywhere in the country. Orange County's no different, 1.2 months of supply. If you want to buy a home, good luck finding a home for sale that's not already got 3 offers above asking price. It's just absolutely crazy. So here's what you've got. When demand is much higher than supply, partially because supply is so scarce, you get price appreciation. And all of the maps you're going to see from me, very simple. Green is good, red is bad, kind of like a stoplight. Up 12% almost everywhere. And this is better data than you read in a lot of places. Mortgage rates, if mortgage rates were 5%, which is our view of the long-term norm, if you will, if you actually go back to history, you can more than that. In fact, I'm right with you, Mike. My first mortgage was an 8.65% adjustable rate mortgage. Orange County would be 16% overpriced, which actually, this is really important because the builders are having to, price matters to home builder, payment matters to the consumer. But at today's 2.7% mortgage rates, Orange County homes are actually fairly priced. As we look at it, they're actually, the payment is about 5% lower than normal, the new normal that we've calculated. So we're not concerned about the housing market at all as long as rates stay low. So 13 years ago now, Chris Porter, our chief demographer, and I did an 8-minute video on housing cycles. This was before Lehman Brothers blew up. And it's a good watch. Well, the link will be in the email you get as a good reminder of how this all works. But the question we get asked is, where are we on this housing cycle roller coaster? I think we're here. We're on the way up. On the way up, for those of you who haven't been through several of these, is when you make a fortune, when you grow your cash, and the wise people are paying down their debts. And I'll tell you, the large home builders have never been better capitalized. They're keeping their debt really low. They're actually doing some very disciplined things with land banking to offload the market risk on others. But watch out if that changes, because on the way down, you're hanging on for dear life. You better sell early, and you got to worry about your reputation. But we're not there right now, but that's in the back of everybody's mind. So the 2 charts that say completely opposite things about the housing market is home price or home value to income ratio. It's starting to look like 2005-ish all over again. In fact, our forecast is we're going to get higher. But that's because our forecast is, what the bond market is saying is that mortgage rates are going to stay low. But if you look at what the first-time buyer or the consumer is looking at, it's payment to income ratio. And hey, payments are fine. This is national data, by the way. So if you put them both here, there's 3 important things to remember. It's the price that matters to our industry because interest rates move, that doesn't help you at all. It's the payment that determines the price. As Mike said, the payment can change super quickly. So this is a high risk part of the market. And when this price to income gets high, the market is riskier than usual. So we're calling this a high risk, high reward part of the cycle. Just because it's high risk, it doesn't mean you take your chips off the table. This is actually when you can do really great. You just got to be careful and structure things appropriately. And I'm totally seeing our clients doing that. They're doing a great job. So let's get into this 4, 5, 6 rule, if you will, with the 4 big external influencers. So this was in the book that Chris and I wrote. It's getting a little stale now, but these concepts are still pretty good. So the 4 big influencers and all these things we talk about, you got to look at them by life stage. And that sounds obvious, but I sit in so many meetings where we don't, or we just say, well, government policy is going to do this to the market. Well, it's actually going to do something different for young families than it is for move up, than it is going to do for retirees, for example. And all of us are business people, so we're trying to answer some of the 6 questions, like who's going to be buying our products and services, what do they want, when, where, why, and how. You take these 4 big influencers, whatever one you're talking about, and you look at them for each life stage, and then you're going to get your results. So let's look at coronavirus. So kids, still to be determined here. I talked to somebody today whose 10-year-old has gained 30 pounds during the pandemic here. I mean, that kind of blew my mind. But this is going to be, and this was one of the findings in that book that went back 80 years, is that what happens in your childhood actually sets you up for your behaviors in adulthood. So stay tuned on this. Early career, well, if you're a college-educated tech worker, you probably did just fine. In fact, you probably moved in with mom and dad and your savings account has never been higher. If you were working retail, you struggled. If you had a young child and it's just the 2 of you, you struggled. So it depends on the person, and I'll get more into this later. If you're a family, now they're the ones that I feel the most sorry for, a lot of them. We have 21 employees who are working from home, who are also homeschooling their kids. I mean, this has been a really tough year for the families. And how is that going to change things? And a lot of them, frankly, need more space. It's good for us. Late career, a lot of people hitting early retirement, a lot of people making a lot of money in the stock market in their home and helping their kids with a down payment. And then retirement, I mean, interest rates are 0. If you planned on living on interest in retirement, forget it. So you're seeing a lot of these people continuing to work in one shape or fashion. So let's go through the amazing government stimulus that Mike alluded to. So this is the total spending in the country. In February, 17.77 trillion. It fell to 16.6 in March. It fell to 14.7 in April. That is a collapse, an unprecedented collapse, and people getting out and spending. But then it came back May through December, still not back up where it was. Here's what the Fed and Treasury came to, which is just unprecedented. Even when they announced it, I said, there is no way the SBA is going to do 14 years worth of loan volume in the next couple of weeks, and they did. There's no way the IRS, which has to be right up there with the DMV in terms of being a bureaucracy and not getting things done, is going to distribute checks to all of America, and they did. So this is just amazing what happened here. And I put the timeline where we're at right now, but the PPP loan paid 2 months of salary and rent for all small businesses in America. And that may not have been enough for retail and restaurants, but it was plenty for a lot of others. And now there's a new program that's being announced too. The stimulus checks, they were very quick, but it was $290 billion in stimulus. Now we're talking about some more. There was a boost in unemployment insurance. If you get laid off, you collect unemployment. Well, the government said, how about $600 a week on top of that, which is $2,400 a month, which is more than enough to pay your rent and your mortgage if you got laid off. That all came out really quickly. Then President Trump said, well, when that expired, let's do another $300 a week. And now we're talking about doing some more in the next round of stimulus. Student loan forbearance, well, You know, even if you're keeping your job, don't bother paying your student loan, that's what's happening. And then now there's more proposed there. Mortgage forbearance. We have in fact, FHA has the highest percentage of delinquency they've ever had in their book. And there is nobody in the foreclosure pipeline right now because there's no starting of the foreclosure process because that's not allowed. And then of course, if you don't want to pay your rent, you don't have to. Interestingly, most people are scraping it together, and the rent collection is partially because of all of this has actually been really, really strong. So here's where we sit right now. So what happened here? So the green piece I'm adding to what I showed you earlier is savings. So total household spending and savings. So we went up with that big, huge green bar. People's savings accounts boomed, partially because of those checks, but also because people just stopped spending. And then it's played out like this the entire year. So we're actually spending plus saving is higher today than it was in February. If you're selling new homes for a living, what do you want? You want savings to be really high. So you break it down a little bit by industry, and I won't get too wonky here, but durable goods, which is cars, clothing, furniture, home improvement, quickly surged to equip the new life at home. Non-durables, which is groceries, cleaning supplies, they came back. You know, some things didn't come back, others did, but non-durable spending is doing fine. Household services, I mean, dining and entertainment got crushed, but a lot of other services have come back, but still not back to where they were. So that's the sector of the economy, if you will, that's still struggling. But savings went from 1.39 trillion to 6.4 trillion in a 2-month period. And yes, it's starting to taper off. I don't think elected officials know how big it is. They're just focusing on the fact that it's tapering, but there's a lot of saving out there. And then our director of research, Rick Palacios, put this together in our last client webinar. So I'm just going to share it again because I thought it was so amazing. What Bernanke and Geithner and others did, and I guess before them, Hank Paulson, the stimulus of 2009 was absolutely unprecedented to get us through the financial crisis. It occurred over a 6-year period and was 5% of GDP, which is all the spending in the country. The first act out of Congress, which all got distributed in a few months, was twice as much. So they did twice as much in a couple months versus what that took them 6 years to do before. Then there's the second stimulus, and now the Biden's proposal, which I'm not sure if all of it's going to get through, is, I mean, this is how much stimulus the Fed just shoved into the system. So I learned in college that this is going to create a ton of inflation, but what I learned from Todd Tomilak at our company, who's won 6 Fed forecasting awards, is that it doesn't create a lot of inflation if people are saving it. It only creates a lot of inflation if people are spending it like crazy, and there's bidding wars. And you're seeing that on housing right now. So there's clearly inflation on homes, but there's not a lot of inflation in other things. But this is the real risk. And actually, a shout out to Chapman. A year ago, Jim Doty did a really great piece on inflation and said it tends to show up, I think it was 6 to 8 quarters afterwards. So stay tuned. Going over to the economy. So the most uneven economic recession ever. And why the uneven is important is because our industry really focuses on people who've got a down payment and good incomes. And especially in Orange County, you need a 6-figure income to be a homeowner. So it's the affluent that our industry focuses on. The job losses here were the worst in 80 years. This chart only goes back to 1940. I didn't put in the Great Recession, but it was fast. We lost more jobs in a couple months than we did during the whole great financial crisis, 5.8% job loss. And what happened here, and this isn't the prettiest chart, I'm sorry, but incomes went through the roof due to that government stimulus and spending stopped. And here's what happened to the employment market. Now Chris Porter clued me in on this too. I didn't even realize there was a category called temporarily out of work, but there is. And there was 1.4 million of those in February. All the layoffs surged, but they were temporary layoffs. layoffs. They were bosses who said, you know what, I'm just letting you go for a little bit, probably furloughed. I'm going to bring you back. And this has been part of the recovery. A lot of the positive numbers you've been reading is really what happened to people who were told temporarily, and most of them in the service sector, frankly. But so once we figured this out, then it was, well, we got to watch the permanently out of work because not all those people are going to get their jobs back. It started at 1.3 million. By April, it was 2. It rose to 3.8 million in September. It's actually trended down a little bit. So the permanently out of work is, I mean, that's 3.7 million people out of work is not good, but it's not like the last recession. It's not even like the recession in the early 2000s. The unemployment rate is 6.1%. Now, this is a little wonky because a lot of people have dropped out of the labor force altogether to stay at home, particularly to take care of the kids. But here's how it looked by industry. So the light pink here was the worst, the maximum losses, which was probably April. Leisure and hospitality has got about 60% of its losses back. The rest of them are crawling their way back. You can see government actually hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but government lost a lot of jobs and they haven't come back pretty substantially. But here's what's important for the home building industry. And even if you're doing garden apartments and they're in Orange County, they're expensive. People that make more than $60,000 per year, the number of people that make more than 60 grand a year is now up from a year ago. It's the people that make less than that that are really, really struggling. So this is my chart to show you what this term called the K recovery. I mean, people were talking about a V recovery, a W recovery. We called it a reverse J. It's a K. So here's another way of looking at the savings. So back in March, the dark red is the lowest 20% of incomes. The next red is the next 20%. The yellow is the middle 20. The light green is the next, and then the dark green is the top 20% of incomes. They had about, the top 20% had about half of all the savings in America. Look at it start to grow. The green grows in April. The green gets huge in May, and you see that the lower incomes actually have depleted their savings. This is a K-shape. I mean, this is what has happened here. And now we're talking about how hot this industry is. This industry is targeting all the people showing in green here, which are in the millions of households whose savings are up. The highest 40% of incomes have far more savings, and the lowest 60% have less. According to this data source, I didn't bring another one from JP Morgan Chase, which is a little more skewed, but I'll just mention it. They looked into their checking accounts, and every quartile of people that have income quartile of people that have checking accounts with Chase Manhattan Bank, even the lowest one have gotten more money in their checking and savings account now than they did in February. The other thing that happened here is if you owned assets, when interest rates fall, people can borrow more and values go up. So the stock market way up, home prices way up. I mean, this has been a boom in wealth for affluent people who are the people who are the target new home buyers. So that's what this uneven economic recession has done, and it's been a huge boom to our industry. Shout out to Michaela, she'll get here in a minute, but she did some great research on this. A lot of people feel really guilty about this, and there's some consumer trends that are fascinating. So let's talk about the tech adoption. And related to that, people are getting the hell out of California. And they've been doing it for a long time, but this is just accelerating. I mean, Hewlett-Packard is gone. Tesla, the Santa Clara County shut him down. He's like, I'm out of here. Juul, Oracle, Charles Schwab out of San Francisco, CB Richard Ellis out of LA, Colony Capital, pretty much all going to Texas. In fact, I heard another anecdote from a CEO friend of mine this morning that they're making it really easy for people who had COVID to file workers' comp claims on their employer, even if they didn't get it at work. I mean, that's the type of stuff that causes people to live. So you're seeing the housing demand continue to shift to Texas and out of New York as well. And then you look at the big leaders in technology who've all said, you can work from home till the middle of next year or indefinitely if you're Microsoft, Twitter, or Zillow. And that's what we told our team members. We'll figure it out once it's safe. So we put this together for the tech adoption for our industry. So buying land hasn't changed very much. Entitling land has changed a little bit. You're starting to see virtual community meetings, some cities accelerating plan approvals. Honestly, I got to give the cities some credit. I thought we were going to get nothing done during all of this, but you found a lot of these city workers working from home, using technology, helping us out, which was great. Sales and marketing was a game changer. And frankly, you've got to credit the resale market. They had developed a lot of these tools and we were kind of laggards trying to drag people into the sales office. They didn't want to come into the sales office. As Mike said, they'd sit on the curb and tour the home virtually because they just don't want to talk to salespeople. But it's working. People are buying homes. Construction and trades, the process is somewhat unchanged. There are some things that are better. Virtual inspections, actually, that's been great. But the mortgage and closing process, as Mike alluded to, I mean, you don't even need to see a soul to close your mortgage now. And that is collapsing the time to get a home closed, which has just been phenomenal. So that's the fastest tech adoption ever. Let's look at societal shifts. So if you remember when I did this 4 years ago, or if you have a copy of the book, to make life easy for me, we broke the population down into the decade you were born. So I could compare 10-year periods to 10-year periods. And this is if you're over the age of 60. This is Mike and me. We're in our 50s. There is a tailwind here. There's 44 million people born in the 80s, 46 million people born in the 90s. That shaded piece means people were born in another country. So the 42 million born in the 2000s should grow once we get back to more immigration, although I am getting anecdotes. In fact, 2 of my employees left the country this year. One went to New Zealand where the schools were open, and one went home to the UK where the healthcare was better for his daughter, actually. It's kind of crazy what's going on here. But let's go back to our industry. What's happening to these target buyers in their 60s, retiring, high mortality rate, sadly, so pretty scared, but huge, huge asset value increases, which I'll come back to in a minute with luxury home buying and retirement home buying. In your 50s, a number of people are retiring early. The second home market has been on fire, honestly, for the first time in this entire recovery. And a lot of them we're hearing are helping their kids with the down payment because their 401ks and everything else are up and their home prices are up and they can do so. That same group that's been dealing with homeschooling, or maybe if they're lucky, they got the kids out of the house in college at this point, struggling with that, but they're homeowners, seeing a lot of price appreciation. They own stocks, seeing a lot of appreciation there. That group born in the 1970s is finally building some wealth. I shouldn't mention, I'm talking about these people. These are the high school classmates of Mark Zuckerberg and these guys. But the 30-somethings, as Mike alluded to, the demographics were shifting already. There was a shift out of urban to suburban. Urban wasn't going negative. It just was growing less, and the suburbs were capturing more of the market share. But now, guess what? I've got a down payment because I didn't take a vacation this year. I didn't do all these other things. My house feels really crowded. And if I've proved to my boss that I can work from home, I think this is the game changer for the industry. If I have a great job in Orange County, but I can't afford to buy in Orange County, but now I can keep my job in Orange County and I can buy in Beaumont and come in 2 days a week, that's the opportunity. And that's where you're seeing the boom. And then those in their 20s, delayed careers, but frankly, a lot of them have been saving well too. So they're not every group here is doing better. A lot are not with the bottom of the K, but there are a lot of people, more people that could buy homes than we would have thought otherwise. The other thing on here, and I'm sorry I didn't make a prettier chart, but this is commuting. 47% of Inland Empire residents and 42% of Orange County residents pre-COVID commuted 30+ minutes each way, and an hour or more, 18% in Riverside and 9% in Orange County. I mean, 9%, maybe a third of those, 3% of people can get 2 hours back in their day. I mean, that's a huge opportunity that is coming here. And I thought I'd show how this played out with a quote from the CEO of Toll Brothers, Doug Yearley, on how it started with the entry level and moved all the way up. So the early stages of the pandemic were not good to us. We didn't have 300 grand spec inventory homes for the renter to trade, a similar monthly payment for running into ownership with rates. In March and April through May, we were not seeing the result that the other big builders were speaking of, because the other builders are focused on entry level and move up and their luxury. Then things changed. Boy, did we see it coming in May. In July, we started taking price, which means raising prices. August, we took more price. September, we took more price, and it's accelerated into November and December. This is a couple months old. But every single sector of the market is doing well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our consumer trends manager, Michaela, and I'm going to do my best to move the slides for you, Michaela. Take it away.
Thank you, John. All right, so I'm going to be talking about trends today, specifically focusing on a couple things that our industry will, or at least should, keep, stop, and then start doing to design homes more successfully. And all of this information is going to be coming from our monthly surveys of homeowners. There are 4 reports here that we released as part of our New Home Trends Institute soft launch. And those are available for download. So you can shoot me an email. You see my email there, or you can visit our website, newhometrendsinstitute.com, to receive copies of those. So we'll get started with keep. What design trends do consumers want to see stick around? And the first one is keep tucking back the front entries, except for in rural areas. So we asked homeowners, what is the most important thing to you about your front entry? And we found that the results were pretty different by geography. So the rural areas, they wanted a little bit more visibility. The urban areas tended to want the entry tucked back a little bit further. The suburban areas were split, which we think signals a opportunity for tucking back that front entry, because the demand is split, but the supply for resales with tucked back entries is very slim. And that's not really something that you can just easily fix with a remodel, but new homes can include that. So this is an example of this. This is Strata and Inspirata from our Design Lens database, where we catalog and analyze new homes. I know Orange County is very forward thinking on the design side, but we figure you guys see all of it. It's all around you. We want to highlight some things that you might not otherwise see. You can see this one's in Nevada. And we're starting to see an uptick in courtyards and porticos. That's especially in luxury, but this is actually a more affordable example. You can see Pardee privatized that front door with this false entry that leads to a porch area that connects to a covered outdoor room. It's great. It has the added benefit of the safety, a place for your packages, but then it also creates an opportunity for private outdoor living, even in an alley-loaded collection. Our next keep is keep placing windows creatively. This is actually something that our industry is really improving at, but in our privacy survey, we asked about bathroom windows, and they did come up as a concern for homeowners. They told us that while the large, expansive, supersized window over the tub looks really great, it's really only ideal in very large homes over 4,000 square feet. And for everyone else, it's actually those smaller bullet windows placed above sight lines that are ideal. And that's going to matter a lot more as we do see things getting denser. So here's 2 examples of how these windows are being used. There's Collins Creek by Ashton Woods, where they have the long landscape windows placed below the cabinetry instead of that typical large window over the sink. And it helps avoid that direct view into your neighbor's kitchen that is oh so uncomfortable, but it also creates more storage opportunity because you can have those cabinets go all the way across while you still get that natural light. And then the other one there is Prado by Infinity Home Collection. And that's the classic example of the bullet windows placed above sight lines. You're letting in the light. You don't have to throw curtains over it. That completely ruins the point of having a window in the first place. And then next, we're going to talk stop. So what trends are changing course? And the first one we'll talk about today is stop selling the healthy home over the healthy homeowner. And what this comes from is we found that there's disconnect between homeowners and our industry in understanding what a healthy home truly means. So we compared what builders think really matters, what's necessary to a healthy home, versus what homeowners think is necessary for a healthy home. And if you look at the results and how they differ, we see in the yellow and orange there, builders tend to rank low VOC paints and finishes and then the organic and natural materials higher than homeowners actually value them. And then the flip side of that is that homeowners tend to rank bedrooms designed for restful sleep, a location in a walkable community, and then the home gym higher. So looking at that all together, it becomes apparent that builders and designers tend to rank the materials higher. They think of the healthy home as the kit of healthy parts, where if you include the right materials, the home is suddenly healthy. And that there's value to that, but to consumers, what really resonates is not just, does the home have low VOC paint? It's really, is the bedroom designed in a way that I'm going to get great sleep on an ongoing basis? Is the community walkable too? Those things also matter. So what we'll find is that the healthy home will evolve to more of this lifestyle-oriented, comprehensive focus instead of just a list of materials and features and certifications. The next stop is stop placing the office off the entry. We talked a lot about it today here, that work from home is going to be an increasing trend we'll see sticking around. And one of the implications of that is that that home office, if you're spending that much time in there, it's moving from something that just checks the box, does the house have one, does it not, to something that is a key space whose position really matters. And the ideal position is not off the entry. It's not even in the top 3 for any of the life stages except for those mature singles and couples. What is ideal is upstairs, but separated from the main bedroom, or off of the back of the house with direct access to the yard and patio. And we have a couple examples of this. This is Catamaran Series in Sarasota, Florida. They placed the den off of the back of the house, so you can see it's connected with direct access to the lanai there. This has the additional benefit when we talked to mature singles and couples specifically about what they loved about working from home. We heard a lot about pets. I love working with my pets. This allows you to let that pet in and out as much as needed without having to go to a different part of the house. And then on the right there, we have Estates at Del Sur. They connected that office to a courtyard. This is one where it actually is off the entry, but they created that same feel you would get if it was off of the back of the house by connecting to that courtyard. And an additional benefit of that is the courtyard is between the office and the main living areas, so you have that buffer for some additional privacy. And then lastly, start. What trends are we going to see take off? The first one is start including smart maintenance technology. We found that homeowners are just absolutely hungry for embedded sensors in various parts of the home that can detect maintenance issues before things get out of hand. So our survey found that homeowners would absolutely love to use a smart maintenance product right now, but very few actually do because there's not a ton on the market. So when these products are brought to market, we're expecting, John, if you want to click one more time, to see similar levels of adoption to the virtual assistants like Alexa and Siri. So huge runway on this one. And then we are already seeing it beginning. Lennar has actually partnered with Moen to introduce smart water technology into their homes nationwide. This is Flow. It monitors water usage and also shuts off automatically if there's a leak. So importantly, it's working behind the scenes to keep things running. And then wrapping it all up with one last start. Our industry, particularly the builders and architects and building product designers, really need to collaborate if we are going to build homes the best way we can. And this piece actually comes from our kitchens report, which is member only, so it's not downloaded, but I really wanted to include it because I think the message is so important. What we found when we asked homeowners, what is frustrating you about your kitchen? What is frustrating about your appliances? A lot of the concerns were placement concerns and things that just verified this need for cross-industry collaboration in home design. simple things that could be fixed if we were all just communicating each other, which is in large part why we launched this New Home Trends Institute in the first place. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back over to you, John.
Thanks, Michaela. That was a lot more fun than the economic stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken Perlman, who I've been working with for more than 20 years. I'm very biased, but I think he's the best consumer segmentation person out there. And he's been doing all the hard work on the Rienda community that's coming up with Rancho Mission Viejo. So Ken, I'm going to do your slides as well. I guess I just did the first one. So
that's okay. I appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. And actually, I wanted to, I'm going to spend a minute or two on this slide, and I'll let you know when to click forward. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time giving a 1 minute kind of recent history of what's happening in Orange County. And this shows us new home sales per week for the Orange County market from 2020 through 2021. And as you can see, the market was doing okay in January of last year and was starting to see some traction going into February. And then along came COVID, and the week of March 29th, and you can see on John's table there, 9 sales, not 90, not 99, not 19, 9. So we dropped our market ranking for Orange County to very slow, as we had for so many markets across the country. Builders were capturing moderate sales rates at relatively affordable communities in the first half of March, but sales were really stalled for more discretionary purchases at higher price points. And as John just showed you, many of the home sales in Orange County required jumbo mortgages, which were becoming more difficult to originate as banks stepped back due to rising risk and uncertainty associated with COVID. And so you can see where the chart is going is that by April and May, as mortgage rates remain low, demand accelerated, and we were starting to see some glimmers of recovery everywhere, including in Orange County. Traffic and sales started to improve, but were significantly slower than the year before. The Chinese buyer had pulled back dramatically and it all but disappeared. And new home sales in the $1 million price range were pretty sluggish. So still the market fought back and it climbed through May. And during the summer, we saw, John, if you still stay on that other slide just for a minute, we saw more of a glimmer as we upgraded the market from very slow to slow. And you can see that we were getting back to that 60 to 70 sales per month range, and attainably priced product was gaining momentum, but the higher price points were still fighting it out. And most builders were holding prices flat year over year. Home price appreciation rates were barely exceeding builders' costs. And by September, you can see we started to see a pop, and we'd upgraded the market to normal to where it remains today. Builders had finally climbed to those pre-COVID volumes pretty consistently, over 80 sales per month, but price was pretty muted. And then in October, we saw that little pop again. And by January, we were firmly back into that normal camp. And so that's where we are today. Normal, prices moving, limited inventory, as John had talked about, best demand at the more affordable price points. And this is the average per project sales rate for Orange County against the 5-year average here in gray. And you can see how abysmally low the market was in April, and its steady climb throughout the summer. And as I mentioned in September, when we finally saw this August sales momentum, we upgraded the market to normal. And remember that a normal market is about 3 to 4 sales per project per month. And it's hung right there ever since for the last 6 months. Sales rates have remained above that 5-year average. And we're really encouraged even by this 3.4 sales per project in January, up almost a full sale per project over the same time last year. So really good momentum. And as John mentioned, we just wrapped up our January survey, and we're even seeing some builders in the 4 to 5 sales per project per month. The price appreciation is remaining pretty tame and well below the national average. So that's where we have a little bit of caution. John, if you'll move to the next one. So as I mentioned a minute ago, inventory levels in Orange County have really been trending down for a couple of years as communities like, we mentioned Rancho Mission Viejo, run low on inventory, and pace development slows down at communities like Irvine Ranch. Today, and John, if you'll flip to the next forward a little bit, we're tracking just 88 actively selling new home communities in Orange County. That's down 21% from the same month a year ago, and down 40% from January of 2018. And quite frankly, as you see fewer sales in this market, one of the reasons is because of that lack of inventory. Lennar remains the largest builder in Orange County, and with their active communities right now, they're down 25% from last year as projects sell out and replacement inventory is scarce. John, if you'll move to the next one, part of the story is that the larger master plan communities that have typically supplied the market have started running lower on inventory. So builders started looking for what I'll call infill opportunities. And I'm putting infill in quotes. It's really the ability to control their own lot supplies. So a good example is Toll Brothers, who just bought that piece in Lake Forest, the Nikasi nursery site. That's 675 lots. And we understand that Toll's going to build that itself. That's actually larger than La Floresta. We wouldn't consider this a big master plan, but it's clearly supplying the market. So this graphic is measuring the collective capture of the master plans in Orange County over the last 10 years, and really the big three, Irvine Ranch, Great Park, and Rancho Mission Viejo, and we do have La Floresta in here, and clearly you can see that the capture rate is trending down. And so these are the four major master plans, and what's interesting is clearly inventories are shrinking at Irvine Ranch. The 800 sales in 2020 was huge for any master plan. But that's down from over 1,000 in 2018 and is less than half of what the Irvine Ranch did as recently as 2017. Now, there's more land that Irvine Ranch can add, but our take on it is that they're going to move along at a pace that's pretty consistent with what they've been doing. And while the Irvine Ranch will continue to be a key source of supply right now, we don't see supplies dramatically changing from where they've been. We know John mentioned that more product is coming at Rancho Mission Viejo, so that'll really be at a premium, we think. And I think that you'll start to see a pivot towards some more attainably priced, higher density product at Great Park. So we'll be watching that closely. So John, if you'll move to the next slide, just to wrap up, affordability remains the biggest challenge for first-time buyers in Orange County. Improved affordability due to lower mortgage rates is being offset by rising prices. Prior to the pandemic, many Southern California home builders made strategic shifts to target lower price points. And to drive volumes, we're really focusing on those attainable price points, targeting the first-time buyers and families that are moving out of rental. The entry-level segment of the market has been the strongest, but we're seeing some traction in move-up. Sales remain strong below 800,000. Less demand from those foreign buyers that are hurting the luxury market a little bit. What's interesting is that the retiree and the empty nesters are returning to the market, and we think we'll actually see a spike in demand for mature buyers looking to cash out of the equity in their homes, but there's not a lot of inventory for them to buy. Where are they going to go? And then, as we talked about, just from a supply standpoint, that's the big news. Builders are really struggling to replenish their land pipelines. Now that we have sales momentum, projects are selling out faster than anticipated. Some builders will see their sales drop to nearly zero as they run out of homes to sell before they can get new projects to open, and expect builders to very aggressively pursue land deals in Orange County. With that, John, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. That was timed perfectly. I realized I needed 2 more batteries, so I was able to get them while you were talking. Okay, time for the forecast. Hopefully I can't be more wrong than last year. So let's see how one thing I'm bringing back from last year is there's a head scratcher going on in Orange County, not Southern California, but Orange County. 21,000 more residents moved out of Orange County than moved in 2019. That was pre-pandemic. I think that's bigger this year. So you got more net domestic migration. Now that usually gets backfilled by immigration, right? And that's not happening. The net population growth last year, including births and deaths, was actually negative in Orange County and heading lower. The net international migration, not that strong. In Orange County deaths, it all adds up to there's not that many people and adults here to buy homes. Do we really need more shelter? But there's some other demand out there that's not shelter oriented. And if I were to ask Mike for like his dream as a home builder in a non-COVID time, he would say, boy, I wish home buyers would save a lot of money so they can show up with big, huge down payments, and we got it. Second, wouldn't it be awesome if my consumers could get mortgages below 3% and existing homeowners could refi down to that or sell their current home and get out of their old home? Got it. Don't people realize how ugly their kitchens are? Why don't they just stare at them all day long, cramped with their family, and then come look at one of our models online or in person? And then finally, wouldn't it be great if every employer or millions of employers said, you know what, you can work wherever you want. I know the land is far away, but you can go work there where the builder can buy land and build homes. So we're going to see a huge increase in construction, I think, because in regionally, not so much as Orange County, because of this, because people can now live wherever the heck they want. And then on the supply, so the demand is coming from that, not the traditional more adults job growth, the way I was taught to learn things. But look at the supply of new homes in Orange County this year. So Ken talked about some of this, but I reached out to Dan Hedigan at the Irvine Company. They've got 27 open programs, which are doing great, but that's a lot of open programs, and they've got no planned land sales this year. I reached out to Chris Marr at Rancho Mission Viejo, and they're grand opening 4 new communities next year, and they're going to do 9 more land sales that'll be delivery next year. But that's 13 communities. I mean, we're going to be selling out of far more than that. And the Great Park neighborhoods, they didn't sell any land in 2020 because they'd sold so much in 2019, and they wanted to let it absorb. And they weren't planning on selling any this year either, but sales have been so strong, they're moving some land sales up. So the bottom line is we're just not going to see a lot out of the master plans, a lot of new home supply, which is going to be great news for the infill guys. And then the other supply comes from the resale market. And this is a metric we put together on how many months of supply, and it varies by market, but historically when Orange County is above 5 months of supply, prices go down always. When they're below 3.8 months of supply, they go down always. And there's a little yellow area there in the middle. We're at 1.2. So if we're not going to add any new homes, like I say that with 100% confidence, a big supply there, and it's very unlikely we're going to see a surge in resale supply. We're not going to see any foreclosures. I already told you about that. Process hasn't even been started. What's going to happen to home prices? Demand is going to far outstrip supply, most likely scenario here. So here's our forecast. So our forecast, which we're not really the job growth forecast guys, we study it, but we buy everybody else's, and 2.8%, which is the highest in 6 years, is pretty much a consensus view. And I think something bad is going to happen for that not to happen. So that's strong job growth, but that's still recouping some of those job losses. And a lot of them will be at Disney workers and things. That's not where the housing demand is going to come from. Mortgage rates are currently at 2.73, I believe, for the 30-year GSE rate. The bond market, the way we interpret the 10-year Treasury futures and the mortgage futures, is they're saying they're going to be 3.1. So plan for 3.1. Yes, that's an increase. That's not a reason not to buy a house. Resale home price appreciation, we're by far the highest out there right now at 11%. I just showed you a map that every country, that almost every community in the United States is growing at 12. If rates do stay this low, I'm going to bet the over on this one. And single family home permits up 7%. We might be too aggressive there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of permits pulled earlier than usual in the existing communities, but we're going to sell out pretty darn quickly. So that's our forecast for this year. I did not forecast last year that Mike Forson was going to get rich, though. So congratulations for Lancy going public. I don't know if you saw that, but that was a couple weeks ago. And you know, there is a huge advantage here to having access to the public markets, because you can borrow money at a low interest rate and have it not due for a very long time. Those are going to be the builders in Orange County. So with that, I'm wrapping up. I know we're past time, but I think I stayed on time. And I'm happy to take some questions if you've got them, or just email me or reach out to any one of us afterwards, and we'd love to talk with you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, in the interest of time, we'll just do one question, and this one's from Hal Schillinger. Are people still buying on credit or more with cash these days?
You know, I don't really know. You're talking about credit cards, or you're talking mortgages? I really don't know the answer to that. I know that the cash balances are up. I have no, and actually, I guess I do know the answer to that. I know the total consumer credit card debt in the United States is down this year. So if that helps you, some of the stimulus has gone to pay off credit cards.
Great. Well, John, thank you to you and your team for your keen insights. Mike, thank you for the builder perspective. And that's a wrap. Steve?
Yeah, just again, reiterating, thank you, John. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for everybody still hanging on. We got a lot of people still watching. I hope we see you in person next year. And please keep an eye out for a lot of events that we're going to have this year as well. Hopefully we'll be back in person at least second half of the year. But with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks.